I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm mad as hell! I'm mad as hell! I don't want to take this anymore! I'm mad as hell! I'm mad as hell! I am mad as hell! I'm mad as hell! I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this! I am mad as hell! And I'm not gonna take this anymore!
Big hello to all supporters of the channel and a big hi to all new subscribers. Where I'm really at now, I'm trying to troubleshoot past everything that we're all going through. Where's the end game? Where is the end game? We all feel we know what the end game is going to be. This world of surveillance, this world of constant monitoring and ultimate control of the population. It's there in front of you, and a lot of people are oblivious. A lot of people on my channel are so awake, it is unbelievable, which gives me inspiration to carry on. But where does it end? I mean, my last visit out to the Leave protest, Leave means leave, in London. Brilliant protest, I liked it. I like the fact that we got out and shown people. It wasn't about being serious, because if you let an event like that psychologically take you to where some of the comments was going, then you'd want to just riot. And I didn't want to riot. I wanted to be in a celebratory mood. I wanted to go down there to show people that I've not changed my thought process in the past 3 years. Since the Brexit referendum was announced, all the indoctrination of the information, all the collusion, what the elites are up to, I've not changed. As we know, that don't even scratch the surface in terms of what's going on in the world, or to you as an individual, or to the populations around the globe. It's the same again. What is the end game? Now they can spot you from Mars if they really wanted to. They've got facial recognition, they've got number plates, they've got vocal recognition, they've got every way. This is like something out of a 22nd century spy novel, but we are living it. And that's what seems really weird when you've got proletariat that are just bobbing around like they don't really give a shit. They're quite happy in their servitude, which is a reference to Aldous Huxley.
Well, now, in regard to this problem of the ultimate revolution, this has been very well summed up by the moderator. In the past, we can say that all revolutions have essentially aimed at changing the environment in order to change the individual. I mean, there's been the political revolution, the economic revolution, in the time of the Reformation, the religious revolution. All these aimed, as I say, not directly at the human being, but at his surroundings, so that by modifying the surroundings you did achieve, at one remove, an effect upon the human being. Today, we are faced, I think, with the approach of what may be called the ultimate revolution, the final revolution, where, well, it seems to me that the nature of the ultimate revolution with which we are now faced is precisely this, that we are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and presumably always will exist, to get people actually to love their servitude. This is seems to me the ultimate in malevolent revolution, shall we say. And this is a problem which has interested me for many years, and about which I wrote 30 years ago a fable, The Brave New World, which is essentially the account of a society making use of all the devices at that time available, and some of the devices which I imagined to be possible, making use of them in order to, first of all, to standardize the population, to iron out inconvenient human differences, to create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
It does seem very weird. Same again, I'm going back to the end game. The end game is, for me, at some point, whether it be a global, whether it be a local, whether it be a national form of civil, positive disobedience has to take place. The population has to wake up as to what is going on. And I'm not just talking about Brexit, I'm talking about the worldwide control and the manipulation of people. Because that's what it boils down to. Run by an uber elite system and an ultra sophisticated system that is managing to keep the control of the population and the dissident feelings down to a minimum. It's whether you want to live under that. I don't want to live under that, and the more I see this, the more I think, well, in terms of Brexit, these elites are never just going to go, all right, well, let them have the democracy. You know, they've been screaming, they're not happy, let them have it. They're not, they're going to push and push and push, and we know that. That's one of the reasons why I went down to London in a celebratory mood, because I know. I know the jib's up already. I know it's only going to get worse.
Top secret. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars Operations Research Technical Manual TM-SW7905.1. Welcome aboard. This publication marks the 25th anniversary of the Third World War, called the Quiet War, being conducted using subjective biological warfare fought with silent weapons. This book contains introductory description of this war, its strategies, and its weaponry. May 1979, number 74-1120. It is patently impossible to discuss social engineering or the automation of a society, i.e. the engineering of a social automation system's silence weapons, on a national or worldwide scale without implying extensive objectives of social control and destruction of human life, i.e. slavery and genocide. This manual is in itself an analog declaration of intent. Such a writing must be secured from public scrutiny, otherwise it might be recognized as a technically formal declaration of domestic war. Furthermore, when any person or group of persons in a position of great power and without full knowledge and consent of the public uses such knowledge and methodologies for economic conquest, it must be understood that a state of domestic warfare exists between said person or group of persons and the public. The solution of today's problems requires an approach which is ruthlessly candid, with no agonizing over religious, moral, or cultural values. You have qualified for this project because of your ability to look at human society with cold objectivity, and yet analyze and discuss your observations and conclusions with others of similar intellectual capacity without the loss of discretion or humility. Such virtues are exercised in your own best interest. Do not deviate from them.
Maybe this video is 10 years too early, but what do we do? What is it going to take to get people from just commenting on YouTube and to actually turning out just designed to have that many numbers that it will shake the living bejesus out of the establishment? Or are people that self-centered as a whole that we don't tend to get involved unless it feels it personally affects you on an individual level? I think there's possibly some of that. Possibly some people are making money and they don't see why they should rock the boat. Some people are very fearful of the careers and the jobs. That's fine, but what kind of career and a job could you possibly have if we was not living under this system? So there's an element of, well, let's not rock the boat, and it's a daunting prospect. Yep, I get it, but the bottom line is, what's the alternative? Carry on living like this, carry on having the establishment just doing us over, carry on having the establishment surveilling the fucking arse of us when we can't even put the camera in their face? Going back to some of the footage I've got, every time I'm filming one of these special units, I'm getting dirty looks off them, but they can walk around with camcorders filming every bit of what we're doing. They can extrapolate whatever they want through the internet of our personal details, but as soon as you do it to them, you can't. So there's a level of unevenness. What is going to be the line in the sand for people to come out in a proactive, positive, civil disobedient way in order to not be castigated but to make the point? What event is it going to take, and what's it going to take to people personally? I mean, in reality, when I look at what's made me open this channel, to suggest that the reason why I went full throttle to do what I'm doing now is just because a woman called me a Nazi. It's quite farcical, really. In reality, and I know a lot of YouTubers, some who are good, very personal friends, will agree. There's so many issues with what is going on when you have got the ounce of intelligence to suss out that things are not right in this world. The numbers of cancer, in terms of the estimate within 20 years, 1 in 2 will contract some form of cancer. Why is that gone to 1 in 2? The question has got to be asked, what is going on with our dietary requirements, or with the food, or with the air, or with the aerosols, or whatever it is? What is it that is causing this spike in cancer? Why is no one talking about it? Why are people just constantly saying, this is going to be the number, put money into it, and let's make it all go away, when in reality for the past 100 years it's done nothing but get more and more prevalent. As much as I respect people who are trying to combat cancer, there's an element within me that the establishment knows how to combat cancer. There's been so many different stories in terms of THC, in terms of proper organic diet that has overturned it.
Well, I was quite a skeptic 5 or 6 years ago. I refused to approve of it for a fellow physician. Currently, my youngest patient is 8 months old, had a very massive, centrally located, inoperable brain tumor. And it's the father's strength to push ahead and get approval from someone and to begin treatment. And the father was successfully able to avoid chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, and within a couple of months had reduced the tumor by 1%. In 4 months had reduced it essentially to 0. And this child, because of that, is not going to have the long-term side effects that would come from very high-dose chemotherapy or radiation.
By the way, I want to pull up to an image that you sent along to us to show our viewers of the difference of the brain tumor and what it was that happened there after a couple weeks. Can you explain that for us in more detail?
Yes, that large white center area is the tumor, and they were putting cannabinoid oils on the baby's pacifier twice a day, increasing the dose, and it was a 3.8% CBD, so it was a high CBD tincture or oil. And within 2 months, there was a dramatic reduction, enough that the pediatric oncologist allowed them to go ahead with not pursuing traditional therapy. And within 4 months, you can see that the tumor is essentially gone. And then by 8 months, the normal architecture had resumed. And at this point, the risk of the MRI is so high that they really don't want to do any more MRIs because of the risk of the analysis. So currently, the child's being called a miracle baby. And I would have to agree that this is the type of response that we should be insisting is frontline therapy for all children before they launch off on medications that have horrific long-term side effects.
You know, there's so many, if you was to really truly catalogue what the people are going through. So for me, that's why I'm opening this channel. A byproduct is obviously the terrorism that kicked in and the establishment through divide and conquer, getting you to think that if you critique that, you are a racist, you are now a white supremacist. Okay then, I'd like to see you do that to me, but they're doing it to many, many people. It's just wrong. So same again, it's the line in the sand. There's so many different issues. You fill the blanks because you will have your own issues. You could just go on and on and on. The care system, the police system, you know, the school system, surveillance system that we live under. Whatever, take your pick. There's probably 30, 40, maybe 100 other issues I've not even thought to even bring into this video. But they're all the reasons why the proletariat are now, instead, there's a small percentage that are going, I've woke up. I've seen that this is not right on so many different levels. There is so many different issues. It's like an alphabet soup. For every letter of the alphabet, you could come up with a problem that is suppressing the people and the prosperity and the likelihood that they may get it. So what's this video about? Just basically to say what's going to be the line in the sand for people. What is going to get people from the computer out into the street with the strength, with the confidence in numbers to know that we can let the establishment know that we're not having it anymore. Now, some people might think the time for peace is over, you know, why are we going through it this way? Why don't we just let them all know how we feel? Why don't we just riot? The one thing you don't do is give them what they want. What they want, as in they, the establishment, the system that wants to then curtail you and put you under this control system. They need to be able to have a narrative that justifies them doing that. So with the framework of the way it is now, it will be framed as disobedience against the narrative which is being pushed out predominantly to the majority of the population that are buying into it. So all it will do is make you seem fringe and fringe, and then through the problem, reaction, solution theory, they will to be able to get justification to do what the fuck they want to you, curtail moving forward. So then it makes it more difficult for anyone wanting to do it in a proactive way because you've been curtailed. So if we don't work this out in an intellectual, proper psychological level, within 10 or 15 years, you won't be able to fight because you will be curtailed sufficiently that whatever you try to do, there will be legislation prohibiting you from doing it through the problem, reaction, solution. So if we don't wise up and do this intelligently where they cannot castigate you, we are actually helping our own demise in a way, in my opinion. It's got to be done mindfully, and it's got to be done in a way that is not deemed violent and an uprising, but an uprising of consciousness rather than feelings, aggression and anger. But easier said than done. Who would have thought that we would be in a situation where you're fighting for democracy? Or is that democracy an illusion? It does feel like you're in the scene of The Wizard of Oz and the curtain's just been pulled back. I mean, that is, for me, the best way of explaining the way I feel and how I resonate with other people when I have conversations with them. So many, it's a matrix. And it's that realisation that we're in this matrix, and the realisation that your friends and loved ones haven't even got a frigging clue what you're talking about. how can we all live under such a debt system?
But does that mean that all interest or all banking should be illegal? Hardly. In the Middle Ages, canon law, the law of the Catholic Church, forbade charging interest on loans. This concept followed the teachings of Aristotle and St. Thomas Aquinas. They taught that the purpose of money was to serve the members of society, to facilitate the exchange of goods needed to lead a virtuous life. Interest, in their belief, hindered this purpose by putting an unnecessary burden on the use of money.
Fractional is like banking.
1,000 years after the death of Christ, money changers, those who loan out and manipulate the quantity of money, were active in medieval England. In fact, they were so active that acting together they could manipulate the entire English economy. These were not bankers per se. The money changers generally were the goldsmiths. They were the first bankers because they started keeping other people's gold for safekeeping in their vaults. The first paper money was merely a receipt for gold left at the goldsmith. Paper money caught on because it was more convenient than carrying around a lot of heavy gold and silver coins. Eventually, goldsmiths noticed that only a small fraction of the depositors ever came in and demanded their gold at any one time. Goldsmiths started cheating on the system. They discovered that they could print more money than they had gold, and usually no one would be the wiser. Then they could loan out this extra money and collect interest on it. This was the birth of fractional reserve banking. That is, loaning out many times more money than you have assets on deposit. So, if $1,000 in gold were deposited with them, they could loan out about $10,000 in paper money and draw interest payments on it, and no one would ever discover the deception. By this means, goldsmiths gradually accumulated more and more wealth and used this wealth to accumulate more and more gold. Today, this practice of loaning out more money than there are reserves is known as fractional reserve banking. Every bank in the United States is allowed to loan out at least 10 times more money than they actually have. That's why they get rich on charging, let's say, 8% interest. It's not really 8% per year, which is their income. It's 80%. That's why bank buildings are always the largest in town.
Should have been outlawed in the 16th century when some crooks decided to manipulate other people's gold. QE, you know, it just goes on and on. The City of London being the money laundering capital of the world.
Edward Lucas, it is striking how tough some of their sanctions are against individuals on a different way that we've been doing this in the UK, because obviously we enjoy some of these people making money and earning money here, particularly in London in the financial district. Who's got it right and who's got it wrong?
Well, I think it's not striking, it's outright shameful that the Americans, despite all the bad things people say about President Trump and all the controversy about alleged collusion between his campaign and the Russians, they are hitting the ball out of the park on this. They've gone after really key people and hit them in a way that has got the Kremlin very angry. Yet the money laundering centre of the world is not actually New York, it's London. The money laundering centre of the world is not actually New York, it's London. And we have got a measure, for example, to criminalise the misrepresentation of ownership of companies. It's a very good thing to do. If you turn up and say this is ABC Limited of British Virgin Islands and you don't say it's Evan Davis who owns it, if your lawyer lies about that, he goes to jail. That would be absolutely wonderful. Now, when do you think that's going to come in? The answer is not next month, not next year, 2021. I think it should be coming in next Wednesday.
Does the British establishment need to change the way it basically treats some of these
Well, absolutely. And I think that the way in which the bankers and lawyers and accountants in the city in general, not making any specific allegation, because libel lawyers are no doubt tuned into Newsnight right now with their pencils at the ready, because that's a big tactic the Russians use, have been the pinstriped accomplices of Russian money laundering. And it's a very small minority of this country, but they do very well out of it.
All the banks that collude with one another, including HSBC and all the other banks that are doing all kinds of financial misdealings.
HSBC officials listed Mexico in its lowest risk category for money laundering during a 4-year period when Mexican drug cartels were funneling over $700 billion through the bank. U.S. Attorney Loretta Lynch.
The investigation revealed that staggering amounts of cash, hundreds of thousands of U.S. dollars daily, were being deposited into HSBC Mexico using boxes specially made to fit through their tellers' windows to speed the transactions. Using boxes specially made to fit through their tellers' windows to speed the transactions.
It is the bank that helped clients break the law. Now HSBC's secrets are out. It starts with a leak. HSBC's private bank in Switzerland deals with wealthy clients. Now we know how. The stolen accounts were leaked to the French newspaper Le Monde. The international consortium of investigative journalists shared them with Panorama and The Guardian. They show widespread tax evasion. Like Stoke City director Keith Humphreys, notes on a family account say some of the money is not declared. HSBC didn't report him, they helped him, arranging a foreign credit card so he can spend the cash without paying tax. I caught up with him at a Stoke game.
Was it all about tax?
Completely confusing.
Well, let me just ask you a few questions, it's really helpful. Were you a signatory to that account? And did you tell me
I don't know what account you're talking about.
I think you do, sir.
Helpfully, a few weeks later, Mr. Humphreys remembered that £147,000 had been paid back to the taxman, but only after the files were leaked.
But yet, you'll see an advert and they all profess that they care and they want your fucking money. So it's such a crazy world, you don't know where to start. There's so many different things. So it's a question of what's going to get you up off your chair, what's going to get you waking up, what's going to want to get you involved to try and change it in a peaceful way in order to not stifle any future generations try to overturn this. Because do you really think we're going to get democracy back in the next couple of weeks? This is going to be a long battle. For anyone at this point now, after 3 years, to request for a second referendum says everything that you need to hear. 17.4 million people made an informed vote. That has now been forgotten about, like you don't matter. If they're prepared to do that to you and to me, what else are they prepared to do in order to keep their narrative in position? So it's going to take positivity levels and conscious levels that I don't even know whether I've got or whether the whole movement has got without it wanting to erupt into violence. People have woke up and people are not taking it anymore.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressmen because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
I love you all, even the pissing haters. Now I've got to go and touch up a plot. See you later, guys.